Welcome back, guys, to CFL Central, CFL content for the fans by the fans. And we have a special episode here of the CFL Central podcast here with our special guest, Bralon Addison of the Ottawa Redblacks. Bralon, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So I have to ask now because this is one of those things where a lot of the times when we do these, we like to kind of get an idea, not even just of your CFL career, but your career going into this. So like when it comes to football, I got into football really late. Some people they grow up on it. How did you get introduced to football?
I was a young kid, and I was born in the '90s, and at the time, the Cowboys were really good, the Dallas Cowboys. And I remember my dad would always be like every Sunday sitting around the TV watching the Dallas Cowboys. He was a huge Emmitt Smith fan, Troy Aikman, all those guys. And I remember I started playing when I was about, I want to say five. I was age five. I started playing, and I just remember I wanted to be just as good as the guys that were on the TV, so I can make my dad proud, like Emmitt Smith was. So I started off. I was playing defensive end, and I chose number 22 because of Emmitt Smith. And then
Oh yeah.
later that year, I moved to running back, and so that's how I kind of got started, just watching my dad watch the Cowboys and scream at the TV, and just wanting to have that bond with
Oh, for sure. Screaming at the TV. That's how we all get into sports.
him. Right.
Growing up in a Canadian family, that was kind of like it was for me, except with hockey. I didn't get into football till quite late there. But
Hmm.
but yeah. So obviously grew up in more of it sounds like more of a football family in the sense of you said you watch your dad and whatnot, watching it on the TV or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
so you went to college at Oregon State. How can you describe your time there?
It was good. University of Oregon, by the way. You can't say Oregon State. We hate those
Oregon
guys.
State. I'm so
But
sorry.
no, I'm just kidding. I'm
I'm
just kidding. But
Canadian.
we
It's
do
my
hate
excuse.
the Beavers. So, yeah, for sure. Trust me, I do it all the time with other schools. Nah, so Oregon was cool, man. It was, I'm from Texas, and uh, going to Oregon was just a different experience. Being from a big city like Houston, and then going off to Eugene, Oregon was definitely a different experience for me.
Oh, for sure.
It was going from you know being hot all the time, and summers being hot, spring being hot, winter being a little chilly, but mostly warm, and not really having all four seasons to when I got to Eugene, that was the first thing I noticed. I got there in the summertime, and the summers were beautiful. And then the fall came, and the leaves were actually falling off the trees and turning brown. And then the winter came, and it was actually, the skies were gray, and the it was cold outside for a nice long time. And then right before the spring would hit, it would rain all the time from like January to almost March. It would just rain all day. And being a kid from Houston, Texas, it was something I had to get used to because like I said, we didn't get all four seasons. But other than that, Eugene was a beautiful place, good people. I tell people all the time, like Eugene reminds me a lot of Canadians, like the way the people are there. They're kind of nice, and everybody's just there to live a good life and mind their business. Like you have your couple bad apples, but yeah, for the most part, like I love people that are from Oregon and just their vibe. And then obviously, Oregon football is next to none. Just football season was always crazy. Saturdays was like, just insane. People would, if we played a game at 7 p.m., people would be tailgating at 9 a.m. The stadium would be packed from the time you woke up to the time, like 3 hours after the game, people would still be outside. So it was a crazy experience, man. I had so much fun, and all the jerseys and all the gear, like that's what everybody knows Oregon about. But it was awesome.
Yeah, I've seen it. It quite sticks out. I actually really like it. It was quite nice. But I mean the it's a bit interesting as we've had a few people on the show before, and we
Hmm.
found that the college experience can be quite different, even from the professional. So whether that was in the locker room or on the field or wherever it was, what would you say was the craziest memory you have from your time in college?
Ooh, sheesh. I'll give you two. I'll go my most like fun, and then I'll go craziest. Um, my most fun was like probably winning the Fiesta Bowl my freshman year. We played Kansas State, and that was like my first time like It wasn't the national championship. I joke with a lot of guys on the team now, and Hamilton fans will probably hate this, but I joke with a lot of guys on the team now. It's like I gotta get me a championship because in high school I went to the championship, I lost. In college I went to the national championship, I lost, and then obviously I played in two Grey Cups and lost both of those. So I'm hoping with Ottawa I can get me one. But back in back in college, my first kind of championship, because like before the playoffs, like the other bowls were kind of like a big thing too, like not just the national championship, like the BCS era. And so we played in the Fiesta Bowl, played against Kansas State, and we won that. And I just remember being so excited because I felt like I had won a championship. Obviously, it wasn't the big one, but that was probably my most fun. And then I would say my craziest memory would be we had like a big snowstorm on campus at the end of my sophomore season, I think, and like there was like this huge snowball fight on campus, and I just remember being like, it was so crazy because I'm from Texas, so I never really like, and I'm from Houston, Texas, so we got snow like twice in the 18 years I was
Oh my
there. I got snow like
goodness.
twice. You know what I mean? So it was my first time like being in snow to where I can actually make a snowball and it wouldn't melt in my hand and I would throw it at people and stuff like that. So that was probably my most crazy slash fun moment was just being like a 19-year-old kid for the first time really experiencing like a snowball fight and like people driving in the snow and things like that. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, snow can be a lot of fun. I had a lot of snowball fights growing up. That's,
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah,
grew up in that atmosphere, so I definitely get it. Although I think Rick, you had something you wanted to run by him.
Yeah. So my question is, growing up in Missouri, Texas, with
hmm
you being from the U.S., do you have any advice for anyone coming from the U.S., whether it being former NFL players or NCAA, to come up and to adjust to the Canadian rules?
I wouldn't say that the rules are like that big of a deal to me, as far as like personally. I think that was, I mean, because once you're in it and you come to a training camp, like coaches and everybody's drilling it into your head, so I think you hear it enough to like kind of just um get used to it. You know what I mean? But
For
I would
sure.
say my biggest advice to anybody is like when you do come, just be where your feet are. I think a lot of guys come up here and they don't know much about the CFL because obviously in America it's not. It's better now, but like especially when I was coming up, it wasn't broadcasted and advertised like that in the U.S. And I think it's a little off topic here, but I think that's the thing we need to look at as far as like kind of broadcasting and then advertising it down south a little bit more because I think this game is a great game, and I think like even a lot of my friends and people I know when they watch our games because of me, they watch and they go, "Whoa!" Like it's so much faster and it's so much more entertainment, and the game is really never over. So back on topic, but I think the guys that come up, they just need to be where their feet are and appreciate the fact that obviously everybody's dream and goal when they're growing up in the States is to play in the NFL, but sometimes it doesn't work out, and it happens to where you end up in the CFL. But I think when guys come up here and they take advantage of the opportunity to still be playing a game you love and just embrace the culture, embrace the CFL fans, embrace the CFL game. A lot like myself, I've had so much fun since I've been playing in this league, and I think if guys would just take that approach of like just being where your feet are and appreciate that fact that you're still being able to play the game you love. I think they love it up here.
Oh, absolutely. And like I have to imagine that as much as there might be a bit of a change when it comes to the rules, I can't imagine it being maybe too much. However,
hmm
as unless I guess unless you're in the northern states, I have to imagine that one of the biggest effects when coming to play in Canada is the weather. When it gets into those later months of the year, going into playoffs, especially when the CFL had that delayed start or whatever, so playoffs were in like
hmm
December, and like
Right.
I have to ask. What it was like for you, especially kind of maybe growing up playing football, not quite in quite that cold or the snow or whatever, and kind of that aspect of things.
hmm Yeah, I think that was like a shock to me. Like I said, I kind of got a taste of that at Oregon, like, 'cause, once November and December would come, it would get a little bit cold. Not quite as cold as Canada. but it still gave me a little. It gave me a little taste of it, and I think, like you said, just being from the South, and if you've never played football in the northern parts of America, from a guy, that might be a big adjustment that you have to adjust to. Is like just being able to come up here and like you know, a regular form tackle when you're carrying the ball doesn't feel like a regular form tackle anymore. It kind of stings a little bit, but it's funny because I've learned to embrace it. I kind of like it. I even though I'm from Texas, I've never really been a fan of like the excruciating heat. So I'm kind of a fan of the cold a little bit.
There you go. That's good to hear. I don't know. I grew up playing with it like that, and it's funny. It's one of those things where at the start of the game, I find where it's just like, holy shit, it's cold. But then once you start and once
Yeah.
you get moving or whatever, it gets a lot better or
Hmm.
whatever. But one experience that we were wondering about, and I guess this is something that you probably would have experienced in this past off season, or actually you definitely would have, is how does the process work? Kind of, I guess from a player's perspective of going through free agency. As I mean, we as fans, we just hear about such and such is on this team or is not on this team. He was signed, he wasn't. How does that work for the player? You know, how is I guess the dialogue with the teams, even with necessarily teams you maybe didn't sign with, before you actually get to the point where that contract is signed.
I think it could vary. I think it varies with each team, with each club, with each front office. I've had the pleasure of being on the same team since 2018, so the circumstances would be a little bit different for me. But um, I talk to a lot of guys around the league all the time, and some can get ugly, some go smooth and are pretty. Because sometimes I think with negotiations, like just like if I was trying to sell you a pair of shoes, right? Obviously, if I was trying to sell you a pair of shoes, I would want to sell them for high. So basically,
Of course.
teams sometimes will come out and they'll, try and offer you something way lower than, you know, what you think you might be worth because they're
For
trying to
sure.
buy a product to help a business, which would like if you were adding a shoe to your collection, you want to buy that product for as low as you can.
Yep.
So I think a lot of times like that happens and guys get frustrated or things can get a little messy because it's like whoa, like I've done this and that in this league and you just offer me this low of a contract. And so I think there's teams that like they handle the situations well by actually being fair and actually being able to say, okay, like this guy's done this in this league. Like, let's not go too crazy and let's not offer him something too low. But at the same time, even with my situation with Hamilton, this past go around, it's just sometimes it's like, the front office sees it one way and guys see it another way.
For
And
sure.
that's just kind of where sometimes you can't meet in the middle. And like I said, I've seen it go smooth. I've been in, so this was my basically second contract negotiation with Hamilton, and the previous times it's gone well, and then this time we couldn't come to an agreement, and
Yep.
it happens that way. But I don't think it was messy, and like I said, there's times where you've seen guys that, um, and I think it's a little unique in this league because it's only 9 teams. So I think it like behooves both sides to like make things a little bit messy because you never know if a guy plays in this league long enough, he can end up coming back to a team or he can end up playing against a team 3 times. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for absolutely.
um, I think it's a little sticky in this league because it's only 9 teams. Like versus down south, there's 32 teams. So if you and a guy don't see eye to eye, he could never play or
You'll see
play
him
for
once
you or see
again.
you against. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's like I said. I just think it depends on whatever the ball club is.
For sure.
I've heard stories about other teams doing things in a messy way, but I've had the fortune enough to not dealing with only 2 clubs now. Like I've never really had anything messy with Hamilton, and I obviously with Ottawa and me knowing Berkey, things kind of went smooth. So
There you go. Yeah, I mean, that's first off, that's good to hear that you didn't have to deal with a messy contract situation. I don't think anyone hopes for that.
yeah.
However, I have to ask when it comes to that. So obviously, you had renegotiated your contract and you had signed with the Ottawa Red Blacks. But I guess
Mm-hmm.
maybe rewinding a bit, how were you? What was your first introduction to the CFL? In the sense of where did you first hear about the league? Where did you maybe think, okay, maybe this is where I want to play some football for a few years? How did
Mm-hmm.
how did that start? I guess like who maybe opened the door for you?
So I first heard about it when I was still playing at Oregon. It was the catch I think Deron had against Montreal, or maybe was he playing for Montreal at the time when he had the one hand grab, or was he still in Sash playing against Montreal? It was a catch that went viral. Deron Carter had the catch. He went. It was one hand in the back of the end zone.
I think he was with
That's when I
Saskatchewan.
first.
I think he was
Okay,
with
yeah,
Saskatchewan. I
that's
think.
when I that's when I first heard about the CFL, and I saw the catch. Um, and obviously I thought the catch was crazy because it was on ESPN Top 10 in America,
Oh, there you
and
go.
so then like I think maybe I started paying attention, but like those clips would go viral online about like To and Chad Ochocinco playing in the CFL. Um, so uh, I had kind of heard about it, but like I said, it's not really advertised how I think it should be,
For sure.
especially back. I was in college in 2012, so especially back in those years, it wasn't really advertised that way. So when I went and played for the Chicago Bears, I got cut and I sat out for a year. My agent called and said, "Hey, the Toronto Argonauts want to, bring you up and sign you." And I was like, "Who's that?" and and he was like, "It's a Canadian Football League team." I was like, "Oh, okay." And obviously being from America, the city that everybody knows about is Toronto from
Yep.
in Canada. So immediately I was like, "All right, I'll do it." Like, since Toronto, like Drake's from Toronto, it can't be that bad. But not knowing anything not really knowing anything about the league, I was just like, "Hey, I'm still playing football, and Drake's from Toronto, whatever, let's do it." And so I came up and went to like a little mini camp with Toronto, and I was there with them. And um, like every other guy, I came up here not knowing what to expect. But then, like once you get up here and you start seeing guys, and you like, there's guys that you knew about that played in college at the time when you were there, or before I was there. Like, I came up here, I knew obviously Speedy, I knew his name, Brandon Banks, from when he played for Redskins, when he played at Kansas State. I knew Soli, obviously the Oregon connection we had. I had heard of S.J. Green from his time, Armani Edwards when they beat Michigan when he was in college. Like, I had heard of all of these guys, but I never knew what happened to him. And then once I came up here and I saw him, like, oh shoot, like this is where everybody is. And so you start to see that the league is actually super
For
competitive. And I
sure.
think that's like the big shock to guys is like when they come up here and they think that it won't be competitive or it'll just be, oh, it's going to be easy. And then they come here and there's so many guys that have been uh,
Did you have your interviews?
in other places or in the NFL.
Oh,
And then when they get here, it's
yeah,
just
he
like,
was
oh
in.
man, this is actually super competitive. So
Oh, for sure. And
yeah.
so you heard it here first. The reason Braden Allison is in the CFL is because of Drake. So, so, thank you, Drake, for bringing him up north. But I have to ask you as well. You've played in a lot of different venues over your career. What's the
hmm
best stadium you've played in?
CFL or period?
Period.
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, because like there's venues that like just like the place and the venue is like awesome. Because like I played in Dallas Cowboys, I played in Jerry's World when I was in high school. We had our state championship there. So like imagine being an 18-year-old kid and you looking up and it's like a big ass
Oh yeah.
uh jumbotron
Scoreboard.
up there, and you're 18 and you're looking at yourself on a jumbotron, and it's like, oh shoot, like But then I also played, the Vikings. I played in the Vikings stadium. They have kind of the same Jerry World build, but
Was that
like
U.S.
even
Bank?
those, like yeah, U.S.
That
Bank,
was in
yeah.
U.S. Bank. Okay.
So even those, like the architecture and like the build and just like how nice it is, but like Autzen, man, at Oregon, like it's one of like the best atmospheres you probably can ever be in. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I don't know, man. It's like it's not that many people. Like we probably get like on average like 40 to 50K people versus like there's universities down south that go like
Oh, look at
80
100.
to 100. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean. But it's like when you're there, it's bar. It's like it's bar none. It's like it's just awesome. And then I got to give a shout out to Tim Hortons Field. Those fans are crazy. They remind me like of Oregon a little bit, how rowdy they are. And then actually, I would say Saskatchewan Stadium is pretty dope. Like the build of it,
Mosaic. Yeah.
and like yeah, when the fans come and they like it's a good like every time we played there when I was in Hamilton, it was always a great atmosphere. So like I'm a
Awesome.
big atmosphere guy. Like if I can go somewhere and play and like the atmosphere is awesome, like it'll give me an extra adrenaline. So
No, no, absolutely. That makes sense. I have to imagine as a player, you're gonna want to play. You want to play in front of a loud crowd. I have to imagine that that's
right.
just a lot of fun. But I guess going back maybe to your career sort of things, um,
Hmm.
going through, you said there was some obviously a lot of influence from your dad in terms of getting you into football. But who
Right.
or what has been the key to your development since going pro?
Hmm. Ooh. I would say I would still say like my dad's probably right up there at the top of the list. Just like it's like when I think I'm doing like even after my 2019 season where I had like all pro in the CFL and I did so much and I thought I was just awesome. Like he would bring me back down to earth. So I would say like as far as like just um, keeping me humble and keeping me like close to the ground and close to earth and be my dad. You know I have to give a shout out to Berkey obviously for kind of you know he brought me to Hamilton, and then obviously I tell people all the time he kind of saved my career. Um, and then obviously bringing me to Ottawa, so I got to give it to Berkey a little bit. But June Jones was kind of like June Jones when he was in Hamilton was kind of like the guy where like because there was a time in my career where I didn't really I didn't really know if like that guy that like was an All American high school football player in Texas and an All Pac-12 guy at Oregon, and then I played a season in the NFL. After I got cut from the NFL, I didn't get a call from anybody for a whole year, and then I came to Toronto, and like I said, guys come up here and they're like, "Oh, I'm in the CFL." I got cut from Toronto after 7 weeks of being on their practice squad. Like I started to question, I started to wonder like, am I still that guy? Am I still a good player? And then once I got to Hamilton and got under June's wing, and he was just talking football terms, and me being able to talk to him and just know what he's talking about, and then me being able to go there and play in his system for a little bit and being able to have success. So I would probably say for sure my dad, Berkey, obviously, and June Jones for sure, just being able to like kind of give me my last breath of like that breath of confidence and like still instilling in myself like, oh yeah, you can still do this. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have to imagine that those will obviously have a big influence on you. Now, an interesting thing here, we have a few questions here actually from some of our viewers. One of
okay.
them, if you can't tell from the question, is a fan of the Toronto Argonauts, and he's asking
Okay.
now that you are a former Cat, do you still hold
Hmm.
animosity towards the Argonauts?
uh that's a great question. I felt like it was like my first, especially my first couple years in Hamilton, it was fresh because like, I was in Toronto and they cut me. And then like, my first couple years playing against them were like I had my best game. So it was kind of like a not a vendetta, but like,
A little bit
just
of a
like a
chip on your
little like
shoulder.
yeah, like I
Yeah,
want
of
to play
course.
good against these guys. And it'll be the same when I play against Hamilton. I'm just gonna be honest. Like when I play against Hamilton, I
He's got you there, Rick.
I want to play great against these guys.
Oh,
But
of course.
it's like after being in the league so long now, I think I'm just starting to appreciate all the teams. Like I watch the CFL a lot. I watch other games. Like and I have friends that play for Toronto. So it's like I've built
Absolutely.
relationships in the CFL now. So it's like. I think like I said earlier in my career, there was like a little personal vendetta against them, but now it's just like I want to beat everybody. So I play for Red Blacks now, and I want to beat Toronto. I want to beat Sask. I want to beat Winnipeg. I want to beat Hamilton. I want to beat
Yeah,
everybody.
absolutely.
So I wouldn't say it's personal, but hey, maybe when I'm playing the double blue and when I'm playing the black and gold, it would be a little chip on my shoulder. We'll have to see.
Well, for sure. I mean, like you said, you're looking for that ring. So everyone's an enemy until you got it. So
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. He was good with the rivalry with QEW rivalry. Now he'll have to deal with the Montreal Ottawa rivalry now.
there you go.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
But absolutely. I mean, we like I said, we've had a few people on the show. We've had Johnny Augustine, we've had Wayne Smith on the show, as well as Chris Walby,
Okay.
and we've heard some
Okay.
pretty crazy stuff. So, who is the craziest locker room character? I have to imagine that there's always at least one guy on the team that is just he's a little out there. To have it just like fun, like great, all
Okay.
positive things. But who's the craziest locker room character that you've encountered and not even just in the CFL, just in your time playing professional football?
Okay. So, I would say like NFL, it was definitely like Akeem Talib and Emmanuel Sanders. Like they would when I was with Denver for like the couple months I was with them, like they would go at it every day, like in the locker room, but just like super competitive, like about anything. Like they'd be betting money, they'd be like just everything. Like they anything you could think of, playing cards, they're betting money. One on ones on the field during practice, they bet money. Like those guys were just like they were super competitive. So I would have to say them. Those two for like NFL, CFL. Um, I would. Simone Lawrence obviously would be right up there at the top.
That was actually my next question. Someone asked, how is
Yeah,
Simone Lawrence? Because someone had asked
yeah,
about that.
he's a different person though. Like from what you guys see on the field, like he's different. Like in a during the game, he's trying to channel and like get himself going and turn into that warrior on the field. Like all guys do it, but Simone just does it his way. And I think like obviously a lot of fans that aren't Cat fans probably don't really aren't too fond of him. But like if you got to meet him in like outside of like a game and like backstage or not backstage, but in the locker room
Yep.
or just every day on the street, like he's a funny guy. He's always chirping, just making jokes. He singing music all the time. He knows all the music,
He's a football player.
and he's actually a guy. Yeah, that's what I mean. So I would say he's a pretty fun locker room guy. Like we come in the locker room, like when I was in Hamilton, if we come in the locker room and Simone wasn't talking, we think it's like a weird day
What's
today
going
because
on?
like he's just that guy that he gets the locker room going. So I would have to say he's right up there at the top. And I'm gonna give you somebody for Ottawa since I've been here. Uh, Nick Arbuckle is one. Not like crazy, but he's like we got ping pong tables in there. He's challenging everybody to ping pong every single day. Uh,
There you go.
Obviously, the Pat Levels was here, and he was a guy like kind of same as Simone. He just like he's always in a good mood. He's always high. Very rarely is he low. So he was always a guy that came and kept the energy up. So I would say those guys for sure.
Absolutely. So we got, I think, probably two more left here.
Yeah. So
So
I do have a question for you, Bralon. This is kind of I was actually asked this by the girlfriend, so I was told to ask this for you.
Okay.
How do pro athletes handle fans while dealing with like personal life? So let's say, for example, you and your significant other or something, you go to the grocery store, someone sees you, some professional athletes, just want that away time going into like the airports, just like give me my personal space, or like how do you deal with that in your personal life?
Uh, hmm. I think it's a little bit tricky because I feel like partly it comes with the territory, like you sign up for it, but at the same time, like you expect people to know like I'm human at the same time also, So it's kind of like I feel like there's a middle ground. Like if I'm in a restaurant with my girlfriend or whatever, and somebody comes up and be like, hey, nice to meet you, whatever, whatever, take a picture, cool, like, you know, there's no problem with that. I think it gets kind of tricky when like you're trying to have a dinner with your girlfriend and somebody's like coming up and like asking you 1,000 questions or like you
no,
know what
for
I mean,
sure.
or you going through the airport and somebody's like, hey, take a picture, and you take a picture real quick. Now they're asking you a question. You
I
about
have
to
to
miss your
imagine
flight. You know
airports
what
are
I mean?
like that a
So
lot.
so it's like I think it's I've never really had like a bad experience with it, and I think like football players we get it a little bit like except maybe like Odell or like even in Hamilton Simone because their face is always out there. You know what I mean? But like
Yep.
football players, you can kind of like be incognito a little bit because we wear a helmet so much. So it's like you're not like on a TV every day. Like people just don't randomly recognize you that much. But like I said, I think it's like there's a middle ground to be met to where it's like, hey, if I'm out with somebody or even if I'm going to the airport, like come up, say what's up. We have a conversation, but obviously I got to continue to do what I'm doing.
For sure.
And then, there's, like I said, there's the other side where like people kind of get overboard and it's like, all right, now, like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes sense. I have to imagine that there's kind of that middle ground where it's like, you want to be there in the sense of you love, like, yeah, you want a picture, that's great, but then it's like, okay, well, I also need my space as well. I have to imagine that
right.
there's just that balance.
Yeah,
But
for
our
sure.
last question that we had here that we were wondering about is, and we've got some really funny answers for this one, so I can't wait to see what we
Okay.
see here. What is the craziest thing you have ever had to sign? We've heard some wild ones. With Wayne Smith, it was Saskatchewan Roughriders women's underwear, but I'm not sure if it's anything that
Wow.
wild. But I
Wow.
have to ask.
Yeah, that would like I don't even know if I don't know how I would react to that if somebody asked me that. Like, oh man, that's because it's kind of like I've had let me see, I'll answer the question first.
Keep in mind while you're thinking about that, it was a mom getting it signed for her
Getting it
daughter.
for her daughter.
Yeah, that makes it 2 times worse.
Yeah,
Actually, that makes it two
no,
times
no,
worse.
it wasn't good. Oh, it was great for the video. Trust me, it was great for the video.
I would say a kid like asked me to like sign his actual like skin before, like like a little kid asked me to sign his actual skin before,
Oh, I see.
and it's like, yeah, like, and it's like I get it, but I'm like, 10 years from now, bro, like you're not gonna want have to remember like there was Sharpie on your skin, you know what I mean? So, and I think like for me, like I'm always like when I sign stuff, it's always like I always want it to be like either make it a jersey or a card or a piece of paper, like
Some sort of
because I remember
memorabilia.
back when I was yeah, because I remember back when I was a kid, if like I came home with like writing on one of my shirts that I went to school with, like my mom would like she would flip out, you know what I mean? So like when kids come up and I know it's like a shirt they might wear to school or they might wear to wherever. Like I'm always hesitant to sign like personal stuff like that, like or like shoes, because kids they'll actually sign their shoes a lot. And like I said, like I'm always hesitant about that because like I know how my mom was, and like anytime I would have writing on any of my clothes or my shoes, she would like flip out. So
Throw this in
I
the
guess like the
wash.
craziest, yeah, So I guess like the craziest thing would be like some like a kid asked me to sign like his arms. Like I've never had like no underwear story. I'm
Yeah.
knock on wood.
Well. Hopefully
So,
it stays that way. So yeah, this
yeah,
has
for sure.
been a wonderful time. Thank you so much for giving your time and coming on. And yeah, so best of luck with the Ottawa Red Blacks this season. As a Bomber fan, I don't know if I can say go. I hope you get that Grey Cup this year, as I'm hoping for my team. But best of luck
Right.
regardless. I think that I think there's a lot to be excited about in Ottawa, as I've discussed with Rick. And yeah, just best of luck on the season.
No, I appreciate you guys, man. Thanks for having me for sure.
All right. Well, you take care. And for all our viewers at home, make sure you guys leave a comment down below. You like, share, subscribe, and share this video around. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Touchdown, Vols!